It was a quiet morning in Harlem, New York. Denzel Washington sat in his modest office at the community center, reviewing important reports on the progress of his youth empowerment programs. His longtime assistant, Maria, rushed in, her face clearly anxious. "Mr. Washington," she said, almost breathless, "you need to see this right now." Denzel looked up from the stack of papers, intrigued by the urgency in Maria's voice. "What's going on?" he asked. Without a word, Maria handed him a tablet, streaming a live broadcast from Washington, D.C. On the screen. Former President Barack Obama stood at a podium, addressing a packed auditorium about global leadership and the changes the world needed to embrace. But what made Denzel sit up straight was something completely unexpected. Obama was talking about him. "America," Obama said, his voice carrying through the hall, "is full of powerful examples of how one person, with vision and integrity, can spark real transformation. Under the leadership of Denzel Washington, communities across this city are proving that dignity and self-reliance are not just ideals, but achievable realities." Denzel felt his heart skip a beat. He had never expected to hear his name in such a context, let alone from Barack Obama. He kept watching, letting the words sink in. Obama continued, "Mr. Washington has rejected old models of charity and dependency. He's building a future based on mutual respect and trust in the potential of his own people. That, my friends, is true leadership." The crowd erupted in applause as images of Denzel's projects flashed on the screen behind Obama. Young people performing on stage, children learning in new classrooms, local entrepreneurs opening their first businesses. The world was watching. Stunned, Denzel slowly set the tablet down. I didn't expect that," he murmured, shaking his head in disbelief. Maria grinned with excitement. "Denzel, this is incredible. The whole world is seeing the impact you're making." But Denzel remained quiet for a moment, considering the weight of Obama's words. He knew this wasn't just about him. It was about everyone in the community, everyone fighting for a better future. "Maria," he said finally, "we need to respond, not with pride, not with ego, with gratitude, with humility." Maria nodded, already jotting down ideas and making calls. She knew this would be a pivotal moment, not just for Denzel, but for everyone whose lives he had touched. Meanwhile, across the city, Obama wrapped up his speech with a direct message to Denzel, looking straight into the camera. "Denzel, if you're watching this, know that your courage is inspiring so many of us. Keep showing the world that our communities don't need to be saved. They need to be respected." Obama's words quickly went viral on social media, sparking passionate debates about dignity, leadership, and America's future. Hashtags like #RespectCommunities and #LeadershipWithDignity began trending, highlighting the importance of policies that empower local people. Back in his office, Denzel let Obama's message sink in. He realized this was bigger than a tribute. It was a recognition of the path they were all on together. "Maria," he said after a thoughtful pause, "let's call a press conference for tomorrow. The world needs to know this is not just about me, it's about all of us." Maria was already making preparations, her face beaming with anticipation. She knew this was the moment their work would inspire even more change. The next day, following Obama's remarks, Denzel Washington held a press conference at the community center. The room was packed with local and national journalists, all eager to hear how he would respond to the former president's words. Denzel stepped onto the stage wearing a simple suit and a pin that read, "Harlem Strong," a symbol of his deep connection to the community. He began to speak, his voice calm but resolute. "Yesterday," he looked directly at the audience, his voice steady and sincere. "Yesterday, President Barack Obama made remarks about our community that left me truly speechless," Denzel said, pausing as the room fell completely silent, everyone hanging on his every word. "I never expected to hear my name from someone as deeply respected as President Obama." He paused, collecting his thoughts, then continued, "But what moved me the most wasn't the praise directed at me. It was the recognition of the work done by all of us together in this community." Denzel then made an announcement that would take their ongoing efforts even further. He unveiled a bold new initiative, the Pathways to Power program. The aim, to empower neighborhoods and local leaders to create lasting, homegrown solutions for their own challenges, without waiting for outside interventions or handouts. This program, Denzel said, is not just about policy or charity. It's about proving that we can lift ourselves up. Most importantly, it's about showing the world that our communities don't need to be rescued. We need to be respected and supported. His statement was met with enthusiastic applause, especially from local journalists and community members in the audience. However, some national correspondents seemed skeptical, pressing Denzel with pointed questions. "Mr. Washington," a skeptical reporter asked, "how do you plan to make these programs work without significant outside funding? Isn't that too risky?" Denzel smiled gently before responding. "Everything we do carries risk," he said, "but the greatest risk would be accepting help that comes with conditions, or that compromises our dignity. We're betting on the strength and creativity of our people, and I know we won't let each other down." His answer quickly made waves across social media, sparking fresh debates about dignity, community empowerment, and self-determination. Hashtags like respect, communities, and leadership with dignity continued to trend, with many pointing to Denzel's initiative as a new model for grassroots leadership. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Denzel's team sprang into action. Community organizers scheduled meetings with neighborhood leaders to identify the most urgent needs, while Maria, his trusted social worker, visited homes and listened to residents' concerns. "This will change everything," said an elderly resident during one visit. "For the first time, we'll have the chance to rebuild our streets and take care of our own families." Maria smiled, deeply moved by the reactions. She realized this wasn't just a social project. It was a chance to change lives. Obama's words about Denzel Washington quickly rippled out beyond Harlem. His message of respect and local self-reliance resonated with other leaders, activists, and ordinary people across the country. The image of a community lifting itself up, led by one of its own, inspired debate nationwide about how others could follow suit. In the United States, reactions to Obama's speech were mixed. Some applauded his remarks for highlighting a positive example of modern leadership. Others, however, questioned whether real change could happen without big outside investment. Some analysts openly questioned whether communities could truly prosper without massive outside investment. During a live interview, however, a prominent political commentator expressed his admiration for Denzel Washington. "Washington is reminding us of something many have forgotten," said the analyst. "Leadership isn't about handing people solutions. It's about empowering them to find their own path." Meanwhile, across the country, Denzel's example was being celebrated. Community leaders in other cities began to adopt similar grassroots approaches, tailoring the Pathways to Power model to fit their own neighborhoods. In Detroit, for instance, a group of young activists launched a Value Your People campaign, raising money to help local families develop their own sustainable projects. Back in Harlem, Denzel continued to receive updates on the program's impact. One afternoon, he visited a small community center and met a woman named Faith, who had benefited directly from the initiative. She was now teaching carpentry classes to other women. "Before, I could barely feed my kids," Faith said in a local TV interview. "Now, I'm helping other women build a better life for themselves. And it's all thanks to Mr. Washington's program." The story quickly spread across social media, further cementing Denzel's image as a visionary community leader. Hashtags like #respect communities and #leadership with dignity continued to trend, drawing attention to the growing movement of policies that prioritize local empowerment. Behind the scenes, Denzel's team worked tirelessly to expand their reach. They partnered with local universities to provide job training, and Maria helped coordinate access to basic necessities, things like food, water, and after-school tutoring for kids. "We're just getting started," Denzel told his team at a meeting, "but already we're seeing the first signs of real change. This isn't just economic, it's social, cultural, and above all, it's about our shared humanity." A journalist observing the scene scribbled in his notebook, "Today in Harlem, I witnessed the future of an America that values its history, honors its unsung heroes, and builds bridges of dignity and hope." One day, Faith made the long walk to the Community Innovation Center, her heart full of mixed emotions. She carried not only a worn backpack, but also the memory of her late mother, who had always dreamed her daughter might do something meaningful. As Faith arrived, she was greeted by a crowd gathered to celebrate the success of the Pathways to Power initiative. Maria was there, tears in her eyes as she coordinated the final details of the ceremony. Malik, a young boy who had once struggled in school, now stood proudly beside her, showing off a board full of photos of neighborhood achievements. Denzel took the stage, visibly moved as Faith entered the room. He walked over to her, extended his hand, and smiled warmly. "Welcome," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "You are living proof that we are building something bigger than ourselves." Faith nodded, fighting back tears. "My mother always believed this day would come," she said, holding an old notebook that had belonged to her mother. Inside, a simple sentence was written: "Knowledge is the greatest inheritance we can leave." Denzel smiled, deeply touched. He knew this was more than just a moment to remember. It was a reminder that every act of kindness could lead to real change. In his speech to the crowd, Denzel spoke straight from the heart. "Today," he began, his voice echoing through the packed hall, "we're not here to just celebrate statistics or new policies. We're here to honor those who built this community with their hands, their hope, and their hearts. You are the true foundation of Harlem." He then turned his attention directly to Barack Obama, even though he knew the former president was not present. Looking straight into the cameras, Denzel spoke from the heart. "Mr. Obama," he said, his voice steady but full of emotion, "your words left me speechless. But I want you to know your statement wasn't just about me. It was about everyone in our community who is fighting every day to build a better future." The audience responded with warm applause as images appeared on the screen. Children reading in newly renovated classrooms, local artists painting murals, and young people presenting new ideas for their neighborhood. Faith was then invited to the stage. She hesitated at first, nerves catching in her throat, but then remembered her mother's words. "My mother always taught me that we should fight for our dreams," Faith said, clutching her mother's old notebook. "And today, thanks to this center, I know I can achieve hers too. I want to use what I've learned to help my community grow and thrive." The crowd erupted in applause. Denzel embraced Faith with genuine affection, knowing that this was the real measure of the project's success, inspiring a new generation to value their potential and their future. A journalist watching the scene scribbled in his notebook, "Today in Harlem, I witnessed the future of an America that treasures its roots, honors its unsung heroes, and builds bridges of hope for all." Meanwhile, across the country, Barack Obama watched the live broadcast with growing admiration. During a live interview, he was asked once again about Denzel Washington. "This guy is something special," Obama admitted, surprising the audience. "He's showing all of us that true leadership means listening to your people and acting with humility." Obama's words spread quickly, reinforcing the message that small acts of kindness and genuine leadership can unite people across all walks of life. Back in Harlem, Denzel continued his mission of transformation. On a visit to a local school, he met a young girl named Maya, who had just received her first set of school supplies thanks to the Pathways to Power program. "Mr. Washington," she said, her voice trembling with excitement, "this is for you. I wanted to show you that we're using what you've given us to learn and dream." Denzel smiled, deeply moved. "Maya, you don't owe me anything. You're proving that when we give people the right tools, they can change the world."